I'm going to teach you how to make a very moist and delicious carrot cake. This carrot cake recipe I've used for years. It was my dad's favorite cake, and a cake that I've made for many occasions. This carrot cake has a little bit of a different twist to it. It has coconut and pineapple, raisins, nuts, and of course carrots. You can omit the coconut, you can omit raisins and nuts. So the recipe is flexible, but you'll want to make sure you keep the pineapple in it because you put the juice in with the pineapple. Typically when I make things that can freeze well, I will make a large batch and make several all at one time. Today I'm going to be making a triple batch so that I'll have plenty of cake to freeze. A lot of the times I freeze them in smaller size containers so that we can pull it out if we have company coming or something like that. And of course I have to make several little size ones so that my husband can grab some when he wants it. This cake has a wonderful cream cheese frosting that goes on the top of this cake, and it just makes the cake so good. As I talk about the ingredients that's in the cake, that I will be making a triple batch, but I will tell you what the recipe says on the ingredients list. So I pulled out some of the ingredients ahead of time. I pulled out the cream cheese, the butter, and the eggs so that they can come to room temperature. It's always nice when you're making a cake to have your eggs out ahead of time to get them to room temperature. Now that I have these out, I'm going to grab some of the ingredients and get started. So I have my very large bowl here because I think it's going to need it because there's a lot of ingredients with doing a triple batch. So I'll start by putting the liquid ingredients and sugar in the bowl first, and then I'll add the dry ingredients on top of that. The first ingredient is eggs. This recipe calls for 3 eggs. I'm going to whip up these eggs before I add the other ingredients. It calls for 3/4 of a cup of oil. I'm using avocado oil, but you can use any cooking oil. And it calls for 3/4 of a cup of buttermilk. And for this buttermilk, I take 1 cup of milk and add 1 tablespoon of vinegar to make the buttermilk because I typically do not have buttermilk on hand. And 2 cups of sugar. This looks like a lot of sugar here, but this is 3 batches. And this sugar is unbleached organic sugar. That's why it's kind of got that like tan color to it. And then it calls for 2 teaspoons of vanilla. And this vanilla is my homemade vanilla. I'll do a little video on that at some point. So I'll mix all these ingredients together. So most people would mix their dry ingredients in another bowl. I'm all for trying not to wash any more dishes than I have to. So I just mound it up here, stir it in a little bit and mix it all together, and it always works for me. So that's what I'm going to do. But you can always grab another bowl and do it separate if you're unsure about it. And 2 teaspoons of cinnamon. 1 teaspoon of salt. And 2 teaspoons of baking soda. So what I do is I just take my measuring spoon and I just kind of stir these top spices into the flour. And then I'll mix that together. I'm going to call that good. You don't want to overmix your cake batter. So now it's time to get my carrots peeled and get them ready to shred. So you want to be sure and save your carrot peels for your compost pile. If you don't already have a compost pile, it might be a good idea to think about it. That is if you have a garden. Something interesting that I just recently heard is that if you leave your peelings on, your carrots will turn green after you add baking soda. So I found that interesting. I've never done that before, but that would make for an interesting cake for sure. So now that I have these all peeled and the ends chopped off, I'm going to rinse them off and I'll get them shredded. All right, I'll get this food processor ready for the carrots. And I'm gonna do the larger shred on this. If I flipped it over, I'd get really small, but I like a little bit bigger shred on it. Normally I use my salad shooter and I really like that for small amounts, but I think for this, it'll be a lot faster to use this. Okay, so now we can put in the last of our ingredients. I'll start with the carrots, and it calls for 2 cups of carrots. And 1 cup of pineapple. Typically when you open a can of pineapple, you're gonna have some left. So what I did in this instance was I put the leftover inside of a freezer bag, and then I'll just put it in the freezer, and I measure it out so that I know how much it's going to be. And this is 16 ounces, so this will be enough for a double batch of this cake. And 1 cup of coconut. 1 cup of walnuts. And 1 cup of raisins. So we'll just stir these together. It smells so good. It has almost a tropical smell to it. So I have this all mixed together, and by now you would normally have your oven preheating. I didn't have mine yet, but we will do that now. We'll set the temperature to 350 degrees. And the recipe says to put it in a 13 by 9 by 2 inch pan, and then you bake it for 50 to 55 minutes. We're going to be putting this in many different sizes of pans, so the cooking time is going to vary, so we'll just keep an eye on it, and each of them will come out at different times. So I have a lot of pans out here. The plan is to have these ones for Rich. So they're extra large, basically cupcakes. So I'll make all of these up and then I'll put them all in a freezer bag, and he can just take one at a time out. And I'll frost them ahead of time. And then I have these little pans that are adorable, and they're like a single serving size, but these are nice for gifts. I'll show you the lids and all that whenever we get done. And then with these, I'm going to do a double layer cake. And then these here, I may need more of them, but I'm going to focus on the cupcakes, the little cakes, and that double cake first, because I want to have them available. The double cake is going to be for a community group this weekend. So then all of the extras will go into the bread pans, because it's a good size for if we just have a couple over or something like that. So the next part is getting it out of here into the pans without making a mess. But first thing I have to do is get these oiled and get some flour in the ones that need to be popped out. I did get I don't know if you saw my other video where I was frustrated with my oil spray bottle. Well, I ordered this one and it's working pretty good. The avocado oil is kind of heavier, so it doesn't mist out as well as maybe I would like, but it works great. And then I'll flour these. Trying to do this without making a big mess. I fill my pans about 2/3 of the way full because I like them to dome up just a little bit. And then I tap the bottom of this a little bit. You can actually just tap it on the table like this to get the little bubbles out of it. And now it's ready to go in the oven. So for these little ones, I just grabbed a 1 cup measuring cup to make it a little easier. I fill them about that full. And then you'll want to have a washcloth close by in case you make a mess. For the cupcakes, I think I'm going to just hold the pan over here close by. Okay, it's time to assemble our cream cheese frosting, and I'm doing a triple batch. But the first thing we'll put in here is butter, and the recipe calls for 1/2 cup of butter. I cut the butter up into small pieces so it'll mix better. And then it calls for an 8-ounce block of cream cheese. And you'll want to make sure that this is softened. And 2 tablespoons of heavy cream. So I'll whip these all together before I add my powdered sugar to make sure that they're combined good. You may have to take your spatula and push the sides down. So I'll add my powdered sugar in now. I'll just add it in a little at a time. Otherwise, we would have powdered sugar everywhere. And the recipe calls for 16 ounces of powdered sugar. You want to make sure that you keep scraping the sides of the bowl down so that you can get all the stuff that's stuck to the sides incorporated into the frosting. So if you feel like your frosting is too thin, add more powdered sugar. And if you feel like it's too thick, just add some more of the heavy cream to it. I think I need a little more powdered sugar. I want it stiff enough so that I can pipe some edges on some of them. Okay, there it is. It could be a little stiffer, but I think that it'll pipe out okay. So I'm gonna go with that. While I was making the frosting, some of these had to come out of the oven, but how I check to see if they're done is I take a toothpick and I just insert it in it and make sure that it's clean. And these ones are done. I already tested these other ones and they're all done. So I'm going to check the ones that are in the oven. Whoops. I know that one's not done because usually it'll bounce back when you touch the top. So I'm going to put that back in. And this one looks done. It's nice and brown. You want to try not to overcook them because they'll be dried out if you overcook them. So this one is done. I need to get these ones out on a cooling rack. Typically you want to get them out about 10 minutes after they come out of the oven. So I'll just take my knife and go around the edge of this. Sometimes I try to lift up a little bit on the cake before I flip it over in hopes that it helps it come out easier. This one's trying to be stubborn. Sometimes some of the cake gets left in the bottom, so typically I just take a big spatula and I go up under the edge of it and I put it on top of the cake. So this will be the bottom and it'll be buried so nobody will even know. I decided to take a little bit of a break and go outside. Our temperatures are in the mid-50s and I couldn't pass up getting outside because we've had a very cold March so far. But now I have all these cakes to get frosted, so I better get started here. I'll start with this one first. Years ago I did cake decorating. I'm out of practice now though. I made all my siblings wedding cakes for them years ago. If you were trying to do a fancy cake and you didn't want crumbs in it, you can take powdered sugar and water, mix it together, a really thin consistency. You can base that onto the cake to seal in the crumbs, and that helps so that you don't have crumbs getting into your frosting. This one, I want to make it pretty, but I'm not too concerned about it being perfect. My frosting's a little bit soft, but I'm going to pipe a little bit here on the top and hopefully it works out. I'll be putting crushed walnuts on the top, so it should hide the fact that I couldn't get it smooth. If I had more time, I would chill this and then I could probably get it smooth. I'll chop up some walnuts to put here on the top. Okay, I'll get this one back out of the way and get the rest of these frosted. Well, I ran out of frosting, so I didn't get everything frosted, but I got the majority of them done. What I'll do is put them in the freezer the way they are, and then at some point I'll get some more frosting made up and I'll pull them out, get them frosted so that they're ready for whatever I need them for. The cake did take a lot more frosting than what I intended, and that's why I didn't have enough. So I'm going to slice off a piece of this cake and give it a try. Take a look at that. See how moist this looks? Okay, so it's time to give this a try. That is so good. I want to keep eating it, but and I wanted to show you these cute little containers. There's like the little tin that they go in, and then they have this plastic lid that goes on that. They have these cute little sporks that go on, and so what I typically do is a little piece of twine, and I make a little bow and tie around this, and then I hot glue it to the top. And I just think it makes a nice little gift to give somebody, like as a hostess gift, or just a special something to cheer somebody up. So I hope that you give this a try, and let me know what your thoughts are. I've had many carrot cakes, and this one, in my opinion, is the best. The nice thing about doing a bulk batch like this is I'll be able to put these in the freezer and have them along later on. And I want to tell you also how much I appreciate each and every one of you for taking the time to watch these videos. It means a lot to me. Please comment below and let me know what you think, what you'd like to see me make. I look forward to seeing you next week. Have a blessed day.